What's going on, guys? Phenomenova Issue 2. In Issue 1, we were introduced to Miles Hensley, or as he later became known as Galvanite. We got his origin story. So he was traveling through a cave, fell through like the floor, found this shiny crystal thing. He went to show it off at school. As he was leaving school, he got caught up in a thunderstorm. It got struck by lightning and basically got absorbed into his body and granted him lightning powers. So far, he can at least sometimes shoot lightning out of his hands. He doesn't have full control over that, even after lots of practice, both on his own and with his best friend Freddy. And he's also got super speed, which he does seem to have more control over. He was able to use that whenever he felt necessary. And sometimes when he didn't feel it was so much necessary, he just liked to kind of show off a little bit. And after a little bit of a training montage with his friend Freddy, as I've mentioned already, he overheard a hostage situation going on at a reactor and decided that it's hero time. And he goes out there. He gets stopped by police. They tell him to go home. He decides not to listen because he wants to do the right thing and he feels that he's up to the task at hand. Goes in. They're alerted to his presence. A couple guards try to stop him. He beats the guards and manages to make it his way to the hostage before we get introduced to a villain named Dark Cloud, who freezes him and threatens him and says, "You get in my way again, that'll be the end of you." He wakes up in the hospital and realizes that not only does his mom now know his superpowers, like know about them, we are introduced to Shenri, if I'm remembering that name right. She was part of a superhero group from the past who Miles looked up to. But not only do they know his identity, but the whole world now knows of it because people quickly put two and two together. Hey, there was a teenage kid that got struck by lightning, and now there's a teenage superhero that has lightning powers. And so they put it together pretty quick. People who were familiar with him from a school were able to kind of help identify. And unfortunately, though his friends didn't want to do any interviews with the press, his enemies, and one in particular, was all too happy to do so, and so he is now being painted in a very bad light. And that is where our story is going to take off. So, once again, Von Coleman is our creator and storyteller, and Philip Cruz is our artist. And so just like with issue 1, we have a dedication page. This is Von's uncle, and he is dedicating it to him, and unfortunately his uncle was also killed in the September 11 attacks 25 years ago. So very sad that he lost 2 family members in that, but it is a nice little dedication page. So our story is taking off, and we're seeing TV coverage of everything that we basically just talked about with the reactor and everything that happened there. We are giving a name for the terrorist group that took over, and they are the Storm Bearers. And then, we get word that of Miles and his secret, his other identity as Galvanite, and now he's got a knack for troublemaking and all that. So we see Miles is over here. He's looking at all the coverage on him, and he's not too happy about it. That's when Shenshi, his new trainer, she is quick to take the phone away and says, you don't need distraction. She then throws it over to a new person named Hotline, and Hotline is Phenomenova's tech guru person. They get word that the police officers from issue 1 are going to come in, and they come in with this blind lady named Astria. And then Astria introduces herself to Miles. They shake hands, and we get some inner monologue, like Miles is unsure as to where to look. He's like, I don't want to be rude. Do I look at the wrap on her eyes? Where do I look? And we find out quickly that she can read minds, and she's like, as long as you're respectful, I don't care where you look. And I gotta say, the eyes would not be where I might be looking, especially if I was a teenage boy. So yeah, he quickly figures this out, and she goes on to say that she was only able to read his mind because of that connection that they had, but her powers are kind of limited when she doesn't have the consent of an individual to read their minds, and that's more or less why she's here. She is helping the two officers who are accompanying her on their investigation as to what happened at the reactor. And what they want is to access Miles's mind so he can help them with this investigation, see through what he saw. And she needs his consent, of course, but also his mom and Shenshi also would like to have this information as well. And so Miles does, kind of begrudgingly, he does give consent to do this. He's like, they already know all this, so I might as well just come clean with everything. And so we get a demonstration as to how Astria is able to connect everybody in. So she kind of goes around, places her hand on everybody's forehead, with Miles being the very last person. And I'm assuming that this is done on purpose. Like, she's basically kind of just getting everybody connected and then going straight to the source and then reading his mind at the end. And so then we get a quick little montage of scenes from everything that we saw in issue 1. So where they were exploring the cave, him getting hit by lightning after coming across the crystal, a dark cloud, the reactor, him running around like a crazy person, him being frozen, all that fun stuff. So she's like, okay, I'm going to, thank you for all this. I'm going to take all this information and decipher it the best I can. So afterwards, she has everybody disconnected, and there's an awkward pause before the officers decide that it's time to, give him a little bit of a verbal thrashing. And Miles has earned this. So they basically are like, look, kid, you should have listened to us. Because you didn't, there are people who have been hurt. So the hostage has been hurt, and we find out that this officer over here, he has a daughter that's part of Phenomenova, and she's currently unconscious because she meant to help Miles out. Now, Astria does kind of come in and is like, hold on, wait, we can't put that on Miles. He had nothing to do with that. So the officer does back off a little bit, but he's understandably upset. His daughter, his own flesh and blood, is hurt, and this kid could have been the reason for it, right? His daughter wanted to help him out, and so he's a little upset about that, and understandably so. But he does calm himself. Miles is over here. He's just profusely apologizing to everybody. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to do the right thing. This, that, and the other. I hope the hostage is okay. We find out that hostage is in critical condition. And Miles is like, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted to do what's right. And the lecture continues, and it's like, look, I get that, but what you should have done was just listen to us. So what you can do from here is better yourself and take this as a learning lesson. You fucked up. Don't sit here and pout. Go forward. Learn from your mistake. And then he goes on to say, what you need to do to kind of better yourself is picture the man you want to become, and take whatever steps you need to do to become that man. So he's imparting some good wisdom here for Miles. And the other officer says, we're glad that you're trying to help, but you got to stay out of the way. But what you really need to apologize to is your mother. And as we see his mom all teary-eyed over here, having just realized that her son did something so monumentally stupid and dangerous, and she could have lost him. Afterwards, Astria and the two officers, they say goodbye, and they're on their way. Miles embraces his mom and apologizes, of course. His mom then looks at Shenshi and says, train him, teach him discipline, save my son's life. And Shenshi says, on my honor. So all is going well. And we learned in the first one that Shenshi, it took some convincing for her to convince the mom to allow Shenshi to train Miles. She saw potential in him in the first issue, and wanted to get him better discipline so he doesn't, go out and get himself killed. And so we see that the mom is now completely okay with all this. So we see Hotline over here. She's trying to get Miles to conjure up some lightning in this training facility. And this holds true with what we saw in the first issue. Miles still is struggling to make the lightning happen, where he's got it from his hands. Sometimes he can do it, sometimes he can't, and he really struggles. Because we saw it against the first guard in the reactor. Miles was not able to hit him with a lightning attack until much later. So this is all consistent with what we're seeing. Hotline tells Shenshi, hey, there doesn't appear to be anything wrong with him. It's all like a mental block. So Shenshi goes out, and they talk about his lack of discipline. Even though he took things like karate, he should be taught in discipline. And she's like, okay, well, you heard the lessons, you didn't apply the lessons. So, what I need you to do is conjure lightning. So he tries again and still gets nowhere. And so Shenshi is, she's like, okay, and smacks the shit out of him. And it's like, do it. Get your lightning going. Still nothing. So then she knocks the wind right out of him and is like, you feel how desperate your body is to get the wind, get your air back in your lungs. You know it's going to happen, but your body is 100% focused on that. Nothing else is more important than that. That is the kind of importance I need you to have to conjure this lightning. So Miles regains himself. She's like, I know you're focused now, but now you're afraid to get hit. And you're afraid to fail. Will you fail? And there's a sudden pause before she attacks, and Miles does dodge. And dodges some more. Every attack that Shenshi throws at Miles, he is dodging. That is until he starts to go, how am I doing this? And before he can even complete his sentence, he gets smacked right in the face. And so what Shenshi is telling him is, your mind has finally caught up with your body, and the two were conflicting, and that slowed you up. That made you sloppy. What you need to do is get your mind, body, and spirit all working with one another, and as opposed to against one another. And so she says, you were just now acting on impulse. And speaking of, what impulse were you acting on when you wanted to go and go into that reactor to, fight the bad guys? And he said he wanted to help people, but he failed to do so. And, he's beating himself up a little bit on that one. But then she comes in and is like, yeah, but you also wanted to be seen doing it. And at first Miles denies that. And she's like, well, look, you stopped to take a little photo op with some random strangers. You're wearing a costume, big flashy costume. And you made sure that the TV news reporters saw you. So you're doing it because you want some of the glitz and glamour. You need to own that. And he's like, okay, yeah, so, but, I see plenty of heroes do that. You're not a hero, not yet. But explain something. If all you're going to see is hatred and there's no glory in it, no opportunities like that, would you still be doing the right thing? I want you to think on that. And whatever your answer is, I want you to own it. So they continue to spar with one another, and Shenshi calls him a mama's boy, and is like, you know what, in my defense, my dad died early, so of course I'm a mama's boy. And she's like, yeah, well, my entire family died early. And she goes on to show, talk about how Lord Dragonfire killed not only her parents, but her entire village. She was spared only because her mom blocked her body with her own body, shielding her from the fire. And she said, I lost my entire village, but they live within me, and I tried to do good by them, whether it's through training, through war, whatever I'm doing, I do it for them. I tried to live in their honor. Tell me something. Are you doing that with your father? And Miles says, I don't only try to live in my father's honor, but his friend Lawrence's honor, because his father gave him the middle name Lawrence to remember his father by. So it's like, I need to do good by them. My brother was named after my Uncle Wesley. And I try to hold their name in the highest of honors. And Shenshi then interjects and says, such beautiful legacy, and you damn near threw everything away over that stunt you pulled. You weren't needed in the reactor thing. You could have had a peaceful life. Now, that struck a chord with Miles. He's like, a peaceful life? Tell me. My father, he retired from the military, and he was trying to have a peaceful life, but then some maniac blew him up 10 years after he retired. I've learned since I was a kid that there is good and evil in this world, that evil will persist, and that there needs to be good guys who are ready to take them on. I now have the power to do so, and I want to do that. And she says, well, one day you will, but today is not the day. Right now, you just need to focus on gaining control. And so then they go on to meditate, and she is trying to tell him, you need to find your spark. Now, she means metaphorically, of course, but as they're meditating and he's going and reflecting on everything, not only does he find the metaphorical spark, but the physical and real spark. She's like, excellent, now I need you to point it and snap your fingers, for which he does. And she's like, that's really good. Now do it again. And we see that he is able to, once again, conjure up that spark again. And this is where issue 2 ends. And so I'm really, really enjoying the fact that we're not just rushing right through all of this, right? Like, we're seeing good progression. Like, he's not just like issue 1 sucks, and then issue 2, he is excellent at everything. Like, we're still seeing he has some growth he needs to do, but we're seeing good progress. And it's somebody like Shenshi who is really pushing him to be better at all of this. And I made a brief connection with something like Yu Yu Hakusho from the cover art that we saw, where she was the old trainer. I can't remember her name from Yu Yu Hakusho, who was teaching Yusuke how to control his abilities. That's more or less what she's doing, and I'm seeing more connection there. And I don't think it's on purpose. I'm drawing the connections on my own, because like Miles is doing like the little spirit gun that we saw in that anime and manga series. Like this right here just reminded me of Yusuke's spirit gun. Now, I again, I'm not saying that this is any kind of a ripoff or anything like that. You can only do so much where you're not going to have some sort of crossover. So I'm not saying that this is like plagiarism or anything like that. I'm just making a statement about how I'm noticing a little bit of parallel. Shenshi being the mentor and stuff like that, and Miles being the Yusuke character. And I like that. I'm enjoying some of the parallels that I am seeing there. Again, I like that we're seeing the slower but well-paced progression in Miles's abilities. That is one thing that I've been really admiring with this. Like, we're not just fast-forwarding to him just being super awesome hero. That he is taking his lumps for his rashness. Like, he's just going out there and doing stupid shit, and he's gotten people hurt, and he is being properly dealt with on this one. It's like, hey, look, man, you're fucking up. People are hurt because of you, and you need to chill out with this whole mindset that you're going to be this awesome hero. Come back down to reality, face the consequences of your actions. And so I do like a lot of that. There wasn't really much for me to criticize on this one. I really like Shenshi as the mentor type. I think her using her backstory and trying to have it relate to Miles in some way, shape, or form is like, are you doing right by the people that you're trying to uphold good character for? You know, if your father was alive, would he be proud of the actions you're taking, or would he be lecturing you at this point? Make sure that those people that matter to you, who you're trying to uphold their spirit essentially, make sure you're doing right by them. Don't let them down. Just as I'm not trying to let my people down. So I like that she's using that backstory to help teach a lesson and stuff like that. And it serves more of a purpose than here's the random character's backstory. So a lot of good stuff being presented in this one. Overall, I'd probably say that this is a 9 out of 10 book. This is definitely my favorite of the two so far. And I do have issue 3, so I'll be sure to be reading that one and doing a review on that here soon enough. But yeah, definitely recommend this series so far. And if this sounds like something that would interest you, check the link in the description where you can get a copy for yourself, or at least 2 to follow for any second chance campaigns that may arise. But that is all I have for today, guys. So until next time, take care and God bless.